So good afternoon, everyone. So just a quick introduction about me. This is Asha here. I'm part of the COE team, as you all know. So today I'll be hosting this webinar. Okay. So we have our whole CMS team is here. So a very warm welcome to each and everyone who is present today. Okay. And also I would like to mention, this marks an important milestone in CMS journey. We are excited to announce that our webinar series will take place twice a month. Okay. So covering a range of topics, like initially we will have this webinar internally, and then we will include our customers and eventually the general public based on interest. So we are also looking forward to welcoming industry leaders in cybersecurity, field services, IT hardware, and managed cloud services to share their expertise as we continue this journey together. Yeah. So we have our speaker today, Dhanush, from COE team, as Chetan mentioned, a cybersecurity specialist with us. So he'll be leading the entire presentation, sharing his valuable insights and expertise. All right.
Hey guys.
And so let's let's have this webinar more engaging and insightful. So over to you, Dhanush. Thank you. Thank you, team.
Yeah, thanks, Asha.
Yeah.
Thanks everyone for coming by. Unfortunately, our special guest today, Mr. Ed Knox, is unable to show up due to a critical call that he had. So I'll be handling his part as well. So let's start off. This webinar is going to be on email security, a crucial part of cybersecurity. And so this is our agenda for today. We'll be going through a basic introduction, brief overview on cybersecurity, what it is, social engineering, what it is, in terms of email security, a small case study on how email security affects the real world, then email security itself, how it works, what are the types of attacks, next DLP's version of email security, which is DLP stands for data loss prevention. And then finally, we have our question and answer session. So I please implore you all to hold your questions until the end. Thank you. So let's get started. Brief introduction. Now, a little bit about CMS. CMS is a IT service company that's headquartered in Dublin, Ireland. They provide managed IT services. They do have other operation sites such as parts of Europe, the UK, and the United States. Now, CMS offers 4 lines of service, mainly staff augmentation, IT hardware management, from procurement to decommissioning, all of that, managed cloud services, and cybersecurity as a service, which we'll be talking about today. Now, our vision is to be the leading global IT service provider known for excellent cybersecurity, endpoint computing, and staff augmentation, and help businesses embrace their technology and maintain a competitive edge overall. Now, what do we hope to achieve from this webinar? First off, want to spread awareness about cybersecurity, how important it is, educate people on cybersecurity, and what CMS does to help with this threat. Now, we'll be going through 4 particular parts, and the last part I'll be taking over since Ed couldn't make it. So first off, social engineering. The next, the types of social engineering attacks, email security, how it's done. And then finally, next DLP's email security provisions. Now, we have a bit of statistics over here on the screen, and I'd like to tell you what exactly it is. So 83%, what does that number mean? That number is the number of total global cybersecurity incidents. And those incidents are all phishing incidents. 83% of global cybersecurity attacks are phishing attacks. That's quite an unimaginable number. Out of all the millions and billions of emails that we send 83% of them result in cybersecurity attacks through phishing. Now, it's estimated that cybersecurity attacks like phishing, well, phishing in particular, cause $17,000 in loss, not per year, not per month, but per minute in the US alone. Now, organizations in the US, in Europe, and Asia Pacific all have a significant increase in phishing attacks, with America seeing 74% of all phishing attacks and experiencing breaches in that region. Now, companies in the US alone face 9 billion in losses annually, and 9 billion is a big, big number. It's a make or break number. Now, for bigger companies, this is a heavy loss, but for smaller companies, it absolutely destroys them. The company pretty much goes from being good to being bankrupt. Now, 100 million emails, $100 million worth of email phishing scams are blocked by Google daily. And that's quite a large number. And this is Google's just one of the security email providers, mind you. There are multiple email providers, and they all block several emails, with Google just Google being the one to block $100 million. And with this comes the additional statistic, which is that almost 50% of all emails in 2022 were recorded to be spam emails, which means 1 in every 2 emails that you open are probably spam emails. And if it weren't for these companies ensuring cybersecurity protocols on their end, we'd be getting a lot more. Now, the end goal is to extract information or cause damage or essentially get worth out of it, either through means of data or through means of monetary gain. So to do this, phishing emails tend to have you install certain malicious software called malware. Now, one of these types of malware is ransomware. The ransomware holds, like the name says, holds your entire system and network at ransom. All your systems are locked up and held at gunpoint, essentially. And until you pay the monetary sum that's requested by this malicious software, all your systems are frozen up. You can't use them, causing a large number of losses. Now, this is particularly high in the Europe and Asia Pacific regions, and it tends to cost organizations around $20 billion in losses. And this was recorded during 2023. Now, 80% of all phishing attacks tend to destroy a company. Like I said, $9 billion in loss is quite the amount. Now, with that affecting our impact on how important these attacks are, cybersecurity attacks, especially phishing, let's move on to the next part. Social engineering. Now, what is social engineering? I think some of you might have heard of it, some of you might not. Now, social engineering is essentially a psychological manipulative attack. It's not necessarily entirely on the technical side. This involves a bit of psychological manipulation as well, where attacks trick individuals into revealing sensitive information and then use that to elevate their privileges to access more information. And it tends to be the most effective and common method used because of its ease of use and because of the human error factor. Now, there's a lot of social engineering attacks, but we'll focus on the ones that are related to email security and the 4 big ones. The first one being phishing. Phishing is essentially a fraudulent attempt to obtain sensitive information, be it your ID or your password or credit card details, whatever that may be, using fake emails, essentially pretending to be an entity that you think you might know. So a good example is fake emails from Banks, I'm sure you've all received them, fake messages, all of that stuff. Now, pretexting. Pretexting is a fabricated scenario made to obtain information. Now, this can be done by impersonating a colleague that you know, or a figure of authority, say a government authoritative figure. Uh, a hacker can pose as either one and then act to obtain your information. Next, we have baiting. Baiting is the enticement of a victim with the promise of goods to get them to give out their information. Now, this usually tends to lead to the installation of malware. Now, the best example for this is connecting to a public Wi-Fi network. So I have seen this personally where people sometimes don't have access to internet, tourists and such, and they go talk to a person. They're like, "Oh, could you hotspot your internet, share some internet so I can get some work done?" Now, of course, malicious users are going to take advantage of this. They're going to set up a hotspot. You're going to connect to a public Wi-Fi hotspot, and they're going to steal all your information. A few other examples are fake software downloads. It's like, oh, I can't find this proprietary software. I'm going to try and get it for free. Another way of baiting users into installing malware on their system. And finally, we have tailgating. Tailgating is essentially the most difficult of the four to perform and isn't used as much, but it's still quite important to know its existence. It's essentially gaining unauthorized access to a secure area by simply following through on following someone through a secure area. Essentially, this would be a breach of physical security as well as cybersecurity. And this happens quite often, I've noticed, where security really doesn't check who enters and exits the building. And we need to be careful of that as well. Now, we'll move on to the next topic is if you can tell me what's wrong in this email. Now, you don't have to tell me, just keep it in your mind, and then I'll show you the answer. And if you got it right, then that's great. If you got it wrong, then you know what to know next time. Now, this is a phishing email. I'll give you a few seconds and then move on to the solution, or what's considered the solution at least. So here we can see the indicators for this being a phishing email. And those indicators are, first, always check email records. Now, the email seems to be from emailrecords.com. Now, big companies like Microsoft, when they send these emails, usually don't have a reply feature. It usually comes with a no reply feature. And they use an official email ID from Microsoft.com, for example. And this seems to be from an unofficial email ID and pretending to be one of the big companies. Next, we have urgent or triggering language. Now, this tends to hasten a person's thinking to get them to think that something urgent needs to be done. Hence, having them click links or go to a place and be like, "Oh, I need to fix this right now." Always remember, you shouldn't, or you should never click on any links that are sent to you which you seem suspicious. Next, the date on which it's sent. Emails like this are usually sent on dates that are closer to the weekends or on the weekends themselves. At least that seems to be the pattern. And yeah, so you can see this is sent on the 22nd of Jan on 2021, which is a Friday. And you should be careful when it comes to things like this. Now, if you got all of them right, good for you. You're pretty good. If you didn't, then you know now what to look out for. We'll cover that again soon. But before all of that, let's get into what happened in a real world and how phishing affected one of the largest in the hotel business, MGM Grand and their resorts. So we're going to cover attack from Scattered Spiders, which is a hacker organization conducted into MGM Grand's casino in Las Vegas, USA. So what they did was they installed ransomware on all the systems, and this caused a terrible number of losses to MGM Grand. So let's explore that. So we aren't affected by things like this. Now, we don't know the exact details of what they did, but the cybersecurity experts who analyzed this case have come up with the following conclusions, according to Ars Technica. So scattered spiders used a fraudulent phone call to employees and to the help desks to phish for login credentials, essentially. The hackers then used the credentials to gain elevated access through which they accessed the network and then deployed the ransomware on all the machines. Now, a phone call to obtain credentials is called phishing or voice phishing, essentially. Now, that was just half of it. The other half was just regular phishing emails, which they used to obtain access to the network. Now, this relies on social engineering and impersonating skills, which they used, as we discussed earlier. So this falls under the phishing category. Essentially, they tricked unsuspecting victims into giving away sensitive information. Scattered Spiders said to have posed as IT staff and partners of the organization, and then spoofed emails and phone numbers to make it look like the calls were and emails were legitimate. Now, spoofing is to make your email look as close to an official email from the company or partner as possible, to make it difficult for people to detect. Now, what happened during the attack? What were the things that were affected? Now, the hack was pretty big and quite harmful for MGM, which is a big company in itself. The slot machines and ATMs weren't working on the day. They weren't dispensing cash. Slot machines just completely stopped working altogether. Digital key cards to the hotel room doors stopped working. Electronic payment systems stopped working. They couldn't take credit cards anymore. Online reservations weren't confirmed. Like there were people who were unable to even book rooms online. TV services, phone lines, all of them were down. There were long queues at check-in because the computer stopped working. So everything had to be done with a pen and paper manually, from booking of guests to recording transactions. And they had to switch to a cash-only transaction. Now, what's the point in all of this? The hackers were able to cause $100 million in loss. $100 million. Now, a loss for that company is a gain for the hackers, which means they gained 100 million. Now, 100 million for a big company like the MGM Grand is quite a lot of money, even for them. But for a smaller company like Celtic Management Services or any other company, that would completely destroy it. And as we discussed before, 80% of all phishing attacks result in destroying a company completely or badly injuring it. Now, this was during the third quarter, and it had to shut down systems entirely and operations to restore them. The FBI was involved in investigating the breach as well. And this caused MGM shares to drop 4.1% in 2 days. It was quite a bad hack. And it's not the worst that's happened to MGM Grand. That's the worst part. It's quite scary what these phishing emails can do. Just a small email, just a small mistake, and could lose hundreds of millions of dollars. Now, let's move on to email security. What is it? How does it work? So what is email security? It's a collective measure used to secure email access, the contents of the email account, and the account itself. since the email is a primary vector for most cyber attacks, especially since using a cybersecurity attack via email is easy to do compared to other cyber attack techniques, like installing malware via gaining access to the network without phishing. And since its email is easily accessible to more people around the world, it's easier for hackers to use it. Now, there's 4 forms of email security attacks, essentially, and these will coincide with the social engineering attacks that I mentioned before. So first one is phishing, as we discussed before. Phishing is malicious emails designed to steal your information. Now, a few indicators for it are suspicious links, urgent language, mismatched email address, and all of that, bad grammar. Next, we have spoofing. Spoofing is forging an email header to make it appear as though it's from a known source. We spoke about this before as well, where they make it look as close to the official email ID as possible. Usually tend to have unusual requests, poor grammar, unexpected attachments in the email. The most common spoofing today includes zip bombs that have become quite popular online. At least that's what I've seen. Come to that later. Next, we have malware. Malware, the most famous. This is what usually counts as a virus on your computer. It's essentially malicious software that an attacker writes. They attach it to their email, and then that email sent off to a random unsuspecting user. Now, the indicators for this are a little bit different from you have attachments, you have links to a page that might auto-install software for you or auto-download software for you. You have prompts to enable macros in your email. All this you need to be very careful with. Finally, we have business email compromise, where attackers impersonate executives to trick employees into transferring money or information. Usually, request for financial transactions, urgency, changes in email address. I'm sure you've all seen the I'm a prince, I'm sending you X amount of money type of emails, but first you have to send me this much. I'm sure you've all seen that. Now, some good practices. What can we do to prevent this stuff? So first, we can check the email address. Make sure the email address is the one that you're receiving or expecting to receive an email from. Look out for grammatical errors and spelling mistakes, since these usually tend to be attackers. Next, verify links. Now, never click a link before in an email if you think it's suspicious. Always check with your IT team or your cybersecurity specialist before you access any links in an email. And this goes for showing images in your email as well. Be careful when you click show images, as there could be code embedded in an image that's 1 pixel large and could destroy your entire mailbox. Now, next, we have urgent or threatening language. As we saw in the email before, it's always something urgent, or it's always something saying, oh, hey, you got to do this, or your account's going to close, or something else. You always got to watch out for that. Next, we have two-factor authentication. So two-factor authentication is a second layer of authentication other than your password that requires another device. And now a physical device is the closest thing you can get to security other than your digital devices. Now, this physical device generates a code which only the user who has the physical device can know. And hence, this increases security by maybe twofold or threefold. Next, we have passwords. So you usually want to keep long passwords that are more random and unique because of the way encryption works. The longer, the better. The more random, the better. The more number of characters it has, the better. And by number of characters, I mean special characters like the @ symbol, characters with caps locks, the dot, semicolon, numbers, all of that. Next, we have regular updates for your operating systems and email systems. Now, this is usually handled by a patch management system, but suppose you don't have that, make sure you always have the latest updates on your security, because it could result in zero-day attacks. Finally, the thing we're doing right now, which is educating your employees about security. Remember that a person who thinks they know everything about cybersecurity is always the one who's the weakest link. Now, a small activity for you guys. Of the 3 passwords on the screen, which one do you think is the most strongest password or the best password, say? Now, you don't have to tell me, just keep it in your mind. And then when we come to the question answer session, we can look into that in detail. Now, unfortunately, Ed was supposed to do this part, and I'll be covering for him. So this is how data loss prevention helps in email security. This is provided by our partners from Brigantia and NextDLP, which is the product that we use for email security through data loss prevention. Now, data loss prevention comes with a lot of positives. We'll just be focusing on the email security part. So what is data loss prevention? Data loss prevention is essentially, as the name states, preventing the loss of data. Now, you can see here a Venn diagram of how it works. They're using a 3-pronged approach to identify sensitive data, audit the movement of data, and then detect data leaks. What exactly is identifying sensitive data? You check if secure data is being moved around, sent, received, stuff like that. Now, auditing of moving data, the contents of the data that you're sending is checked by NextDLP to see if it contains any sensitive information. And then finally, detecting data leaks is checking or trying to mitigate the loss of data from inside the organization, preventing it from leaving the inside and going outside. So this is what happens if you try to send an email with sensitive information on it. This is done through a context and content-based analysis performed by NextDLP. All this data is usually set from our end, and we can then detect if anyone's trying to receive or send data that's crucial to the company. Checks message fields, email headers, subject content, body attachments, size of the attachments, all of that. Now, this differs from place to place, but that's about it. So that brings us to the end of our email security webinar. Thank you very much, everyone, for coming by. And if you have any questions, now's the time.
Thank you, Dhanush.
Hello team, any questions? You can mention it in the chat, or you can even ask the questions.
Yeah, you can just unmute yourself and ask if you like,
Yeah.
or you can just type it out in the chat, your choice.
Thank you, Dhanush, for the presentation. I just have a question on you have given the information as the Google, people are losing like around 100 million, almost like 100 million, right?
Well, Google blocks 100 million.
Google blocks, yeah. Google blocks up to like around 100 million. So I believe that is for the end user, they are the non-business users, or they are the business users? You were
No,
talking
it's for everyone in general. So
about-
it's non-business users and business users. Well, most business users don't use Google to start off with. So that's usually for non-business users. I'm guessing the statistics includes everyone, but yeah, I think most of its composition is non-business users.
I can only assume, like, you know, if it's for business, it could be like maybe 10x or 100x.
Yeah, no, absolutely, yeah. Because the price of the well, we all know data is essentially virtual gold in today's day and age. So yeah, the companies receiving information is way more valuable than a regular user.
No problem, thanks. That's what I wanted to know.
Anyone else, guys?
So the question, I would be more curious about doing the little quiz for your password with people typing their answer in the chat to see what's the common thought on the three different passwords.
Did you guys have an answer for the password?
If you can put it in the
which
chat.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I'll just go back to that page in case you guys missed it. There you go.
I'll give them a second.
Most of the answers are like it is number one, Danish.
Yeah, 1 second, let them finish.
Yeah, we'll just let them finish. Oh, I see
Yeah.
it too.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I think they're done.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay. I see mostly ones, and I see only two twos who are cybersecurity experts. So if you chose one, then unfortunately, I'm sorry to say, but your password's quite unsecure. Now, the way password encryption works essentially is you use an RSA algorithm, which converts your password to, I won't get into the technical details of it, but like I said before, the more unique stuff you have, it's great, but a longer password is harder to hack. Say, for example, a good analogy is if you had a padlock with a combination lock attached to it, and it had 4 letters, whereas a padlock, 4 numbers to it, say 1, 2, 3, 4, and that was the password, versus if you had a padlock with 100 letters on it or numbers on it. Of course, the one with 100 numbers is harder to guess. Essentially, it works on probability. So the more characters you have, and the stranger they are, and the less relation they have to each other, is the better it is. So there we have it, guys. Thanks so much for attending the webinar. Thank you for your questions, and I think we can stop it there.
Thank you, Dhanush. Thank you, Asha.
Thank you, Dhanush.
Thank you, Danish.
Thank you, everyone.
And thank you.
So, okay, as we wrap up, I just want to, I want to thank each and everyone for joining us and participating in this important discussion on the email security topic. I hope you all found the information shared today both insightful and practical. Thank you, guys, once again. Thank you all.
Thank you, Asha.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you,
Thanks,
Danish and
everyone.
Asha.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Thank you, Danish. Bye, everyone.
Yeah, see you guys. Thanks. Bye-bye.